All right, guys. So sometimes when I'm in different cities, what I'll do is I will meet with people that I've met online. And today, what is your channel called?
Western Culture Through God's Eyes.
And I wanted to come here because you guys are like literal historians. So how did you guys get into this stuff?
History, the red pill.
Yeah.
All of it. Well, I had a great history teacher, my freshman year of high school in 2002, and I was self-taught from there. With the red pill, it started out with my mom. Like my mom was like really toxic and wasn't being fair and wasn't doing her end of the traditional 50s gender role, but my dad was like way back in the 80s and 90s. And so I was wondering if anyone was ever going to talk about it online, and they eventually did, in the 2010s area, but not very much. And so now they're finally talking about it, such as with Pearl Daily.
Yeah. So we messaged a bit online. That's how I met you guys. They're literally awesome. And yeah, we're gonna have a conversation, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
So,
isn't it mostly black people that have this religion? Because I feel like I've heard of it,
yeah.
But it's like Africa or something.
Fair, yeah. The black Hebrew Israelites, yeah.
I don't know if I'm right or I could be wrong. I'm just.
So yeah, I actually wasn't looking for this at all. I didn't know about this. Everyone around me just taught the traditional Christian message. I found out about it through YouTube, through Rob Skiba, and he had a huge channel. He died. He got COVID, and then he didn't die from COVID. The hospital killed him, actually. They starved him to death over 40 days.
What?
Yep. But he actually introduced me to it. As I found about it out online. It's like a huge movement. Like everyone around the world is independently finding out about it, just connecting on the internet, because there's not too many of us in any one
Proceed
location.
on US 340.
Okay, straight. Taking us a different way back from when we came, so.
Do you guys like living out here?
Yeah.
It's nice. It reminds me of where I'm from. With all the grass.
Yeah, we're gonna drive, it looks like, back through Harper's Ferry, and that was like a Civil War battle site, which is interesting, but the area itself is like really beautiful, so I think you'll enjoy the drive. But go on, Julie.
So yeah, basically it's really nuanced, and that's why we have a whole channel dedicated to understanding the Bible, a million seminars on it. And that's like the only way that you'll be able to process it. It'll take a while to sink in, but
I've watched a decent amount of you guys' videos.
Really?
Yeah, I 2x them.
Awesome.
Not all, but I've seen a couple. So it's basically
so we believe in the entire Bible, right? Okay. Genesis to Revelation. We believe in the Messiah, right? But come to find out, his name in our language is Joshua. They didn't even preserve his name correctly, right?
Really?
Yeah, so in Hebrew, it was Yehoshua, and in Aramaic, it's Yeshua, in Greek, it's Yeshua, and in English, it's Joshua. So anyway, they didn't even preserve his name correctly, but yeah, so come to find out, all the people in the Bible were what we would call Messianic Jews today. None of them were Christians. From Adam in Genesis all the way to John in Revelation, they were all Messianic Jews. So there's a bunch of titles you could say Messianic Jew. So that's like a distinction.
Stop and go traffic.
It's such a shame because Talmudic Jews went astray too. So this is not Talmudic Judaism, right?
Okay.
Messianic Judaism. So Hebrew is a acceptable term. Israel, the Way. That's what they call themselves. They call themselves the Way, a sect of Judaism, actually, in the New Testament.
Okay.
Nazarene, and then, of course, there's a bunch of miscellaneous terms like saints, the brother and the elect, the righteous. So these are all terms they use for themselves, but Christian was not a term that they ever used for themselves. So the first people to call them that was in Antioch. It was Romans that weren't a part of the biblical faith that called them Christians. They meant it as an insult. And then the Christian title movement actually got started in 80 AD. So once all the disciples had died, some new second generation Roman converts called the Didache created a whole new religion called Christianity, and they just saw the Jews get slaughtered and the Jewish Roman revolt in 66 to 73 AD. And so the new Roman converts, they were like, whoa, being a Jew is unpatriotic, being a Jew is bad, being a Jew gets me killed, I'm not willing to die for my faith, plus my fellow Roman neighbors will never accept a Jewish book, a Jewish religion. So but we do like some of the concepts in the Bible. Let's blend the Bible in with our current Greek Roman religion, with Zeus, and then out came Christianity. And that's what's been passed on throughout
And
the world
that's
for
when it
2,000
became
years.
more matriarchal. Because I watched the video that you sent me where it was like
The third act.
the triangle
Mhm.
where it was like it's always just going back to matriarchy at like its core. So
Yeah.
is that what it became then when they made that new religion, like a matriarchy?
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
goddess worship has always been around. Like it's actually like the first story of the Bible, right? Like you will be like Adam. You will be as God. You will empower yourself. You will raise yourself up. And there were a lot of religions. You know, this image of like a father and then a mother and then their son, and it started in Nimrod and Tammuz, and the Zoroastrian religion has this, the Greek religion has this with Zeus and the mother of Hercules. I can't remember her name right now,
On the right.
but
Slow traffic.
they've adapted this divine feminine essence. I mean, look at Athens. Athens is named after Athena. Like they have all sorts of female
Right.
deities. And I love how Jolie points out like the Pax Romana, and you know, one of Christian's favorite authors is Paul, and he's one of the most patriarchal authors in the Bible. And the reason he was addressing feminism so heavily was because it was the Pax Romana, and feminism can only be manufactured at an era of peace.
Right.
So that's what we're in. We're in the Pax Americana right now. And so it needs to be addressed as well. And there was a lot of female deification over thousands of years, basically, throughout the, Mediterranean.
So how long have you guys been like practicing this?
So for me, I first discovered it in 2014. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's about 10 years.
No
And
way,
then,
that's a
yeah.
long time.
So check this out. Like Lior, do you want to tell me your background, how you were raised?
So yeah,
So neither of us were raised with this.
Yeah.
We just actually, or actually just me, I taught Lior. I was just one of the few people that actually cared about the truth and willing to do the studying, which takes effort most people don't want to do. And then I found out, oh my gosh, that the majority has not passed on the truth. Go ahead, sweetie.
So I was raised I was born in the States, and my mom's Israeli, so I was raised in Israel from the age of 2 to 11, and then I came back to the States. So I was raised secular atheist Jew, which a lot of people are coming out for, like that's how they would describe it. It's kind of like a virtue signal card. It's the same way that
Right.
Christians say, yo, I'm a Christian, here's my card. Okay, here's my Jew card. But they don't actually like observe, believe, practice. They're atheists.
So
They're
did
secular.
you grow up in Israel then? You said, I think you told me that one.
So yeah. I was raised there until the age of 11, and then I did middle school and high school in the States.
And you said like no one's religious there, not really.
it's like
It's like here.
it's like here.
Okay.
It's a secular state. So when people are like the Jews run Israel, like no guys, it's a secular state. They're feminist. They're some of the most feminist people there. They have the second biggest gay parade in the world over there. They're, you can't legally you don't have homosexual marriage legal on the paper, but tons of gays, tons of feminists, they don't have any penalty for this type of behavior, so they're thereby not biblical. They're not technically Jewish, and what has basically swept over what people now understand as mainstream Judaism is like this Talmudic Leibovitz sect, where they all like have kind of funny dress and weird customs that aren't found anywhere in the Bible. It's an extra book outside of the Bible that they call the Oral Law, but they actually elevate it to equal or even more importance than the Bible itself. And that's, so the Christians, they take away a lot from the Bible, but the Jews add a lot.
That the Talmudic Jews went astray, right? Like they used to be the right religion and they went astray the last 2,000 years.
Was this after Jesus? Like after Jesus, the Talmudic Jews went astray, or the
Well, so they were doing something that was Talmud before.
Okay.
Right. So the Talmud came around in 800 AD, so way after the Bible, right?
Okay.
The Bible, like John wrote Revelation either in 60 AD or 95 AD, depending on
Maybe can you raise your voice a little bit?
Yeah. It's not loud enough back there.
Well, he's also recording.
Oh, epic. Yeah, I didn't know if that was the case or not. Sweet. Can you pass me the beer?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so many fascinating things. But
He doesn't have to if you guys don't want.
no, go do it. Absolutely, no, go for it. Awesome. No,
And we just roll bits and bits
Yeah.
and bits. I say.
no, it's fantastic. It's great. Okay,
Most people will
so
never hear this anywhere.
the Talmud is a 6,400 page book that started to get written by the rabbis in 800 AD. So 700 years after the Bible. So we're not supposed to do that, right? So you're not supposed to add or subtract from the Bible, right?
It's just
and so
supposed
that's
to be
what,
like by itself.
yeah. So that's what the Jews and the Christians have done. So the funny thing is the Talmudic Jews would consider us Christians because we accept Matthew to Revelation, right? The renewed covenant, the Messiah. And then Christians consider us Jews because we actually read and believe and apply the first 85% of the Bible, Genesis to Malachi, which they don't. But so just like the Talmudic Jews went astray, our point is that the Christians did too. The Catholics did too, just like the Talmudic Jews. Nobody was a Catholic or a Greek Eastern Orthodox Protestant or I'm sorry, a Greek.
So how do
Greek
you
Eastern
how do you
Orthodox
know like because what's really confusing to me is like there's so many people feel like they have they're right, everyone thinks their religion's right, and they all like everyone thinks they have the one true, like literally everyone,
Right.
and they'll all show me they're like scholars and this is the real document.
You're just defending what they were raised with.
Yeah,
That's
fair
you
enough.
can
We
tell.
all are.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But
Yeah.
my question is, how do you know the documents you're looking at are correct versus like theirs? Because what they'll do is they'll show me some church document and be like, this is right. And then, so I'm just curious, how do you filter through all the bullshit, like from your point of view?
Right. That's circular reasoning. Okay, so two things. Like you have to like study scripture, right? Like your whole life, slowly, as often as you can, taking notes with fresh eyes, looking for stuff's in there that you weren't taught, And the second thing is you have to study history, right? Like history helps so much. Like you won't even understand what you're reading a lot of the times. Like you won't understand where it takes place in the timeline. You won't understand where it takes place in the map. And then you won't understand what transpired over the last 2,000 years, unless you study history too. So these are two things that most people don't like to do, right? They don't like to read the Bible. It's like old and ancient and dry and black and white, and they don't like to study history because they think it's boring and dry too. I think it's fascinating.
So yeah,
They want to watch Marvel.
question about history, because you go to the schools, they teach you history wrong.
17 miles
Yeah.
ahead.
They don't
on
teach
the
it all,
road.
actually,
Well, like
Slow
I'll even think
traffic.
of like how they taught us slavery, right? Like I couldn't believe what slavery was actually like when I started reading historical accounts from like it was like the 1920s. They basically asked slaves to describe what slavery was like, and I couldn't believe how many of them had positive. I got canceled for this. Now I don't give a shit. But they because how many actually had positive interactions with their owners and like had good like I was like, what? And so my question for you is like, if you go to the like, how do you know what books are telling you the truth?
Well, so the more you study, like you'll be able to read between the lines.
Okay.
Like I actually talk about this in Human Migration and Secular History Proves the Bible. So, they the mainstream theory is evolution, which literally just got made up 170 years ago. And not only is it unlikely, but it is impossible to take place. So they teach 3 billion years ago that it torrentially rained on the rocky surface of the earth, and that created life. The chemical soup, the first single-celled organism, that's impossible. Rain and rocks doesn't create life. Doesn't matter how much time you give it, that's never going to happen. Rain and rock doesn't equal life, right? So not only is it unlikely, it's impossible. So that's why they're so desperate to bring in this alien theory. Like, oh, well, the aliens seeded the chemical soup flatula, and then it went from there, right? So it's really ridiculous, but oh yeah, this is Harper's Ferry. Are you guys familiar?
Yeah.
This was this is a very strategic point in the Civil War.
Wow.
Yeah. This is like where three rivers meet and like the railroads supply. There was a battle here. Yep. Harper's Ferry.
I can see why the settlers came and annihilated everyone for this area. I can see why.
So.
Okay, sorry, keep going though.
Oh no, it's fine. So like
Keep left.
in Greece, that's a real date, right? So anytime that they're like fudging these huge numbers and it's not specific, that's because it's made up. It's so crazy. Like,
why do you think they make it up? Just like
to support like their religion of atheism. So like it didn't happen. It's not true. You have to believe in it. You have to take it on faith. That's a religion. So
right.
if they find data, and I have a little trailer linking to what I think is the best documentary on evolution debunking it. It's called Evolution Debunked. It links you to Ken Hovitt's video, Lies in the Textbooks. So, it's not an orchestrated conspiracy. That's why it's so ingenious. Like people that are inclined, like they don't like the Bible because the Bible has rules and it says if you don't follow the rules, you go to hell, right? So that offends everybody. So they're like, oh, so I would like to believe the Bible's not true, so I don't have to be convicted by that reality. And so that's the internal motivation. So it's called volitional reasoning. So it's when you're like emotionally inspired to believe something false, and that's corrupt. So, but
Okay, so one way you do it is you look for specific dates.
Yeah.
And so if it's real, it'll have so even with those slavery documents, when I was reading them, they had specific dates that they took them on from the ex-slaves. Like that'd be an example.
right, yeah. I would say they didn't start revising history like that until the 60s.
Right.
So basically, you have to be pretty analytical about anything written from the 1960s on, and everything before that is much more trustworthy. They're just telling you how it is. There's not much bias in there at all. So, but yeah. So on human migration, I show that this book says that the earliest civilization started in northern Mesopotamia. Well, why would that be? That's because that's where Noah got off the ark. Noah got off the ark right above that at Mount Ararat. That only makes sense if the biblical chronology is true, and it doesn't make sense if evolution is true. So if evolution is true, they said that Lucy was the first hybrid between a chimpanzee and a human, and so that was in Ethiopia. So if evolution is true, civilization should have started down there, or
in Ethiopia.
Yeah, or all around the world at the same time. It didn't. It only started one place in the world, and that was northern Mesopotamia. And that makes no sense unless the biblical account is true.
That's the Middle East.
Yeah. So,
thank you.
You're
I was thinking,
Mesopotamia is modern day Syria. Modern day Syria is where they have all the archaeology. And archaeology is another great witness to history, and
the area we're talking about is eastern Turkey and northern Iraq.
Okay.
So
that's the earliest civilization, and you think that's where Noah got off the ark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we landed on Mount Ararat, and the only logical place to go
because of the flood, and because of the flood, there wouldn't have been remnants of stuff before that.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
Fine.
Exactly. So everything that happened in the pre-flood world, and I actually have a timeline now that most people in church. I mean, they don't teach anything in church, right?
Right.
So
they don't.
So I was like, you know what? I really want to know specifics. Et should be knowable, and I think if I study enough, I think I'll be able to find it. So. I started studying in 2013, and I put together all the dates going all the way back to creation and the flood, et cetera, all the way to when Solomon died.
Okay.
So and that's in timeline. We do a timeline.
So in the historians, in the Bible, it talks about these people called the Hittites, and there was never any evidence of the Hittites, and so historians see well, look, this is a wonderful piece of evidence about why the Bible is false. There are no people called the Hittites. We don't have any archaeological evidence of that. And lo and behold,
what are Hittites?
It's like a tribe of people. It was a nation. It was a nation that the Hebrews had to battle against.
It was an empire.
And the Egyptians. Yeah.
Okay.
Modern day Turkey is where the Hittites were. And so they said, they don't exist. And lo and behold, many years later, they discovered remnants underground of Hittite history and Hittite archaeology. So archaeology is another great, and human migration are both great witnesses to the story of the Bible and all other Joel's been studying this for decades, but I'm catching up because schools don't teach us anything. I've learned more in 3 years under Joel than I've learned my entire 18 years in,
I think most women would too if they just listened to their husband.
For sure.
On the road.
Yeah.
They just don't care. That's the thing.
Right.
It's women just don't care about this stuff, right? They want to have just good vibes, feelings. They're just not brainy. They're well, why does it matter what happened in the past? And I have no idea what's gonna happen in the future. So I guess how we should live right now is just however you want.
So the general rule is that you need 3 witnesses, 2 to 3 witnesses, 3 different people talking about the same event.
Yeah.
There can be variety, but they're talking the core, the foundation of what they're talking about is true. So like in regards to the newer testaments, the renewed covenant, like they're telling the same story, but there is some variety. And so people are like, that is actually more reliable. Like when the same story is being told by 3 different people identically, they're like, well, this is kind of suspicious because this doesn't really happen in real life. Like for them to have exact same accounts, there's usually some variety. People's brain is a little fudgy. What, baby? So 3 witnesses. The reason I bring this up is that's another way that you can understand what the Bible is teaching. And so the Bible is like a consistent message. But what...
We have another great promo for the Exodus. Links you to like an Amazon documentary from 2015 called Patterns of Evidence, the Exodus. And they found evidence for the entire story, from like Joseph being like the vice president in Egypt, all the way to Goshen, where they settled for so long, to where they crossed the Red Sea. We know exactly where they crossed, at the Gulf of Aqaba. And that's just to the right of the Sinai Peninsula. And we found Mount Sinai has been found a long time ago. The mountain is burnt. It's the only mountain that's burned on top because of the fire of the Father, God, and so all this stuff has been found. Like Solomon erected 2 pillars on either side of the crossing to show exactly where it took place.
Really?
Yeah. So this documentary, it's...
You said it's burned? A mountain's burned?
Yeah. You know the story of the Exodus?
No, sorry. Sorry, some of these stories are like, you might remind me if I hear them. But
Okay.
That's what I was taking back with like my Michael Knowles interview, and like even Trent Horn, it's just so, because what'll happen is they'll put some study in front of me that I just know isn't true. But I have to like, I can't tell you why it's not true, because it's like I'm in a debate. I don't know what study you're talking about, but I know if I dig down, there's some catch. There's always a catch.
Mm-hmm.
And it never would make sense as to why these guys are like why do they want to simp so bad?
I know.
I
It's
would
crazy. It's like their religion. Like, I just made a post. I made a post with like 50 points, and it said women are men's god. Like they treat women as their god. It's crazy. Like,
well, and so when I was in the interview, it's like they don't really have truth as the motivation. It's just they want to be right, look good, and get clips.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized. I didn't understand. I thought it was a good thing the Daily Wire, they didn't edit anything, and I was like, good, that's better. But what I realized they do is they are the only ones allowed to pull clips, and they know most people won't watch the full interview. And that's how they try to that's what I realized. I don't care, whatever, because I think like the more you talk, the truth will come out eventually. But that's what I realized. They all just want to make money and like look good.
Yeah.
And they want to almost like be a preacher and tell everyone how to live, Where I kind of think people have to figure it out for themselves. I don't know, especially men. Like I think they naturally do the right thing, or women naturally do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But I get so confused because they'll put studies in front of me that they know isn't true, and then I don't even look, and I find a guy from Michael Knowles' church community that got wrecked and divorced. I'm like, you do know this is going on. I'm like,
right.
Why are you
crazy.
playing pretend?
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. The guys at the top totally sold out all of the men below them, right? Starting with like the 20, and like
voting.
Yeah, exactly. They totally sold them out. It's horrible because they're not affected the way that the rest of the men are.
Yes, that's what I was trying to explain to them. I'm like, coal miners, factory workers, those are the guys that get screwed. It's like the average military men. They get it the worst. And I'm like, you guys don't even, you're like, yeah, screw you, the guys that serve our country.
Yeah.
Good luck with these whores.
Yeah,
it's your
exactly.
fault.
Yeah. Because, like a woman treating a man badly, like in a marriage, his wife, the 2 of his kids, that is a life ruiner.
15 north.
It's a life ruiner. So for the rich guys, it's not. But for all the rest of the men, it is a life ruiner. Like I said, like we have 50,000 suicides a year in this country. 80% of those are men, and it's exactly because women used, abused, and discarded them, stole their children, stole their money, and so they're like, wow. And no one stands up for them. Not Republicans, not guys in the church, and so.
Well, even Tim Pool, I didn't say this on there, but Tim Pool, he said, "Oh, it's the man's fault, basically, if he gets
Oh, right.
divorced." And I thought,
Effing A.
but
We
they're
saw
so
that.
they're so
Oh,
ignorant.
that's the most offensive
they're so
thing ever.
ignorant.
Yeah.
His driver is paying $17,700 a month. Hasn't seen his kid in 5 years. He was ex-military, married a military woman, and which red flag,
North.
a lot. And then. And I'm like, and the way he was describing his life, I'm like, he was living in poverty basically because of this chick. You know, I mean, you know how expensive that is? $1,700. Like, that is so much money.
Yeah.
That's,
You know, it's really funny. Like Tim Pool, for being so baby crazy, he doesn't have any babies. Like he talks, he talks like a woman, and I was like, he is so excited. This is like the most women he's ever been around in his life.
Yeah.
I was just like, I was like, this is he is simpish. He has simpish tendencies, and you know, it's really tough. Like you really have to catch yourself and course correct yourself while you're talking to notice this. But like he was having a very gynocentric leaning language, you know, blaming the men again for not finding the right woman, and Joel will talk about that later. But you know, again, women can't be accountable.
but he's gonna, if I had to predict, I think he's gonna be a target because he's too blue.
How old is he?
Absolutely.
I think he's mid-30s. I actually get the sense that he genuinely wants to figure out what's true. I think he'll get red-pilled. I just think he's not there yet.
Oh yeah,
That's
he's
not-
very blue-pilled.
like, I don't get the same, like, Michael Knowles, I get more of the sense it's, like, money. But, like, Tim Pool, I get the sense he is motivated by finding out what's true. But I would guess domineering mother. Like, that's my guess.
Yeah.
I think he just doesn't know.
Yeah. Bro, the same thing that they're doing you on videos, they've done this to me my entire life. I started noticing talking about this stuff way back when I was a kid, like, you know, around 1999. And they say the same stuff then that they say now. Like, they're, they're totally projecting and gaslighting and lying, and like they have all these ulterior motives. So, anyway, you are the best person in space. So, yeah, thank God for you. Thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you. Well, I just was trying to figure out what was true.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why can't
You have courage and you got work ethic, like every day, you know, like
it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a great job.
Exactly. And nobody else is doing it at all, or they're not doing it as well, you know, like and it's a quagmire, as you've seen. Like, everyone attacks you, right? All the women just are in a sexist, you know, the Sanders Alliance attack you. They're making you look bad for calling them out, for exposing them. And then you have at least half the men that are beta simps that join them as well, you know. So you're going to at least have 75% of the population attack you if you literally just tell the basic truth that everyone knew for 6,000 years of history, that we've gone full retard only in the last 64 years. You know, so I know that, so that's older than any of us. So it's like, oh yeah, this has been around forever. It's such a short period of time. Like, literally, my parents were born before this. Like, my mom was born in 1946. And so the stuff wasn't as bad when she was born. She was actually raised old school, but she totally adopted all the feminist everything. She wouldn't say that, but she did, you know. So
I've heard from feminists in England that feminism was stronger in like the 60s and 70s. So a lot of the women will say, oh, it wasn't like that in my time. But I have had a good amount of people saying that, like, people are less well, they're at least less, maybe, I don't know how to put it. I'm sure the women act more feminist now in terms of their life choices, but I think there's more conversations about not being a feminist now than there was in the 60s, allegedly, according to, like, Erin Pizzey.
okay,
I don't know if you know who that is, but
I don't.
she's like an 80-year-old men's rights activist.
Oh, wow.
Top chick. Like, she's
Oh,
old.
good
She's
for her.
like, yeah.
Good for her. So they were, you know, because men had created such a safe and luxurious environment for women after World War II, right? Notice it didn't pop up before then. You know, that gave women the environment to pretend, right? Like you say, living in a Sims world, pretend. So they started talking about that in the 60s, and then it was full blown in the 70s. And then it was a disaster. All kinds of horrible things happened because of that. Like, everything across the board. Like, we had the worst economy. We had the Great Depression because of Jimmy Carter, the worst presidents we've ever had. And so, women weren't getting married. There were single moms, like, you know, etc. Like, we had Like when someone's raised by a single mom, women go into sex work either officially or unofficially, and guys like join gangs, or they just become like complete beta simps. Like they become men that women don't want. So we're like, you know what? We've had enough of this shit for 20 years. So like Ronald Reagan came in and like the church came in like, hey, we should be conservative again, like the 50s and the 40s. So we had like a resurgence of conservative movement in like the 80s and the 90s. But Pandora's box was open, right? It wasn't quite like the 50s and 40s, right? It was like a combo, 40s, 50s, plus some 60s and 70s, depending on the person. And in the 2000s, we started flirting with the same freaking ideas. I was in school like during this time, so we started flirting with all of these ideas that we're now doing, and then we went right back to the 70s and 2010s and 2020s. So
so it almost was drawn back a little bit in the 2000s, you're saying?
Yeah, in the 80s and the 90s, it was a more traditional time.
Okay.
Yep, and then even in the early 2000s, and then...
So my parents met, I think, in the 80s or 90s. My dad really liked that time. That's what he said.
It was a great time.
Yeah.
That's where my childhood was. I was born in 1988.
Yeah.
So
Jolie's shocked about America today. It's like a totally different country to where he grew up in.
How old are you guys?
I'm 36.
36.
And I'll be 30 in June.
And okay, so
Here we are. We're home.
so you guys are on a military base.
Yep. So.
Like
Are you filming right
I
now?
couldn't.
Jeremiah?
Yeah.
Can you pause?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I couldn't believe. I didn't know the references he was making to the Jewish stuff back then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's right or that's true, but I'm saying like, do you know all the like? Because I was saying that Jewish people were the most oppressed, and he was saying something like. I can't remember what he said, but I knew he was referencing something that like the people on Twitter talk about now.
Yeah. Well,
back then I didn't understand it. I was like, what?
Right. Well, here's the thing about the Jews. I just spell it with J-O-O. Like, these people, like, just because somebody has a Hebraic last name doesn't mean they're Jewish. Like, Judaism, it's a practice, it's a walk. You know, you're not born Catholic. You're raised Catholic. You observe Catholic, whatever. You know, you're not born, like, the whole purpose of the genealogy in Judaism was to direct people to the Messiah. But nobody can trace their lineage back to Jacob or Abraham. Like, you can't do it. So Judaism is practice. And so just because somebody has a Hebrew last name of some kind doesn't mean they're observers of that faith. Like, if, the elite, they talk about the Cabal, but the Cabal is just the elite people. They're very wealthy people, and they're not Jewish, they're Satanists. And I think it's actually like an agenda to taint the name of like the Hebrew people. Like, people just don't know what Jews are. They think it's a race, but it's a faith. So you can say, I'm a Jew, but you're secular, you're a lesbian, you're a feminist. No, you're not, right? So
first, what time do you guys want to be at the airport? So
How far away are we from the airport?
an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. At the most, a little bit less, like 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's
I figured. So.
What time is your flight out? I think we were.
Make sure.
Is this airport busy usually, or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Probably the busiest place in the world. Yeah.
517.
What do you guys recommend? I mean, you guys are from here.
We
right?
depart.
It's just to Dallas, right?
Yeah,
Like-
just to Dallas. We're not checking.
517.
Yeah,
when
it's
our flight is.
5:17 flight. We're not
And no checking your bags. Oh my goch, gotcha. So you guys could arrive at the last minute and be fine. But like,
just to be safe.
if you
So we
like,
start boarding in
Yeah.
4 hours 16 or 4:42 p.m. That's boarding.
boarding 4:42. Okay, so we got to you guys like there an hour and a half early. You get through the whole thing in less than 30 minutes. You'll be waiting for
Yeah, that's
it.
fine.
So that'd be plenty of time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Especially not checking any bags. So, okay.
Oh, and I wanna get a caramel latte from Starbucks.
yeah. Sure. We love Starbucks too. Yeah, we're all about
That's
Starbucks.
what
We actually
I'm
have Starbucks coffee here. Starbucks espresso.
yeah, it's all the Starbucks beans.
Let's see.
So-
Three. Okay, so we'll like do it by 3:15. So we'll like leave it 2:15.
Okay, that's
So
And then we can just film here and yeah. Okay, I'm fine. He's got a boom mic, so it's pretty. That's
Yeah, so I can
really
hear
neat.
everything
Yeah.
practically. Yeah.
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 It's our little library. used to be bigger in the past, mostly got left behind.
You gotta film the map over
Yeah.
there. I thought I'm a visual person, so this is really helpful because
Awesome. Good.
flood, pre-world flood.
So yeah, we actually have like printouts here too. For convenience.
Oh wow.
Yep. So
Yes.
so this right here goes from here to
Wow.
to here. So this is a blow up of here to here.
Okay. Let me see. And so you. Okay. So is this all the Old Testament?
Yeah. Yep.
And so this
here-
is all up to Jesus, basically.
No, not quite that far. You got
Okay.
like so you got creation in the garden right here.
Okay.
This is all based on the way we keep time, BC. So why this is cool is I've never seen this before.
Okay.
You know, specifics, and then it goes all the way to Saul, David, and Solomon.
Okay.
And the reason why I kept it just to this time frame, didn't do the whole thing. The rest of the dates aren't disputed up to Solomon's death, but all of these dates are disputed. That's why I thought it was really interesting. Like essentially, like these dates to here, this whole thing is unknown, and so that's why I thought it was really interesting to put it together.
Wow. And so all of these dates have they have specific dates and they have 3 historical accounts.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And are the historical accounts from different people?
Mm-hmm.
And are they all from the Bible or are they from other places too?
So the only dates that we can get are like from here to here would be obviously
The Bible.
biblical sources,
Yeah.
right? But then from here on out, they can be from secular sources.
Okay.
So secular historians would be incorrect on any date before this date right here, 2234.
Okay.
So any date before that from secular history is going to be made up. It's going to be wrong, you know.
Okay.
So
And so like let's just take the Tower of Babel.
Mm-hmm.
There's like other sources for the Tower of Babel outside of the Bible.
yeah. Now obviously, interesting thing, like it actually lasted a long time. It lasted all the way to like the life of Joshua. So it's a third of it still existed all the way up to here. Now it doesn't exist anymore. So they said a third of it was sunken like with an earthquake. They said a third of it was destroyed by lightning from Jasher, book of Jasher.
Okay.
A third of it was destroyed by lightning from God from heaven, and then a third of it was like left as like evidence for it. But people took that building material and they used it to build other buildings.
Okay.
Like just like with Rome. Like Rome is just ruins. You know, it's not
Right.
anything like it was. It's
Right.
totally destroyed because like when the Germanic barbarians came in, they took that material to build other stuff.
Germanic barbarian.
Yeah.
You guys talk about stuff like I do not know history. You know what's crazy? I think I have a better understanding of history than most people, like the average American, and you're still talking about stuff I would not know.
Well, yeah, they don't teach it. You know, like
It's really confusing. It's really confusing because
So-
there's so many. There's so many.
Do you mind doing a chair?
Yeah.
Awesome. You want a tall one or do you want a shorter, comfy blue chair?
Either really, because even if I'm like,
We
yeah,
can switch.
any works.
Yeah.
Any of them works.
Who's Selah? Is that a girl? Selah? I've only met a chick named Selah.
Where?
Selah?
Nope, that's a guy. Those are all men. Yeah. So.
I've met one person named Selah in my life, and that was a girl.
And then, yeah, whenever possible, you're obviously welcome to the couch. You're obviously welcome to the couch too.
All right, cool, perfect.
Cool. Great.
Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
You sit in the middle, Bill.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So anyway, man, so much to talk about. But Justin
You're right.
Peterson, like he's like he has a normie understanding of the Jews. Like the people who are running Israel, they're like Freemasons.
Okay.
Like that Freemasons have infiltrated all sects, Catholics, Orthodox, Christians, whatever. So they're Satanists basically, and if you're gonna hate like Israel because it's run by Freemasons, then you can hate the United States too because the United States is run by Freemasons. Like they're running the show. It's not like Jewish people. Like even if they did want to punish Jewish people, like the majority of the population were like is
Okay.
peasants. You know,
Did you interview, or did you know who Jay Dyer is?
Jay Dyer.
Oh, I just interviewed him. So he was telling me about kind of what you're talking about, which is like the Satanists that are running everything?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys think that's true? Like they all work together, all the Satanists, to like
Yeah.
control the population. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So that's so funny. Like we actually a lot of we like a lot of stuff Nick Fuentes says, right?
Yeah.
He's just wrong about who's behind it, right? So he's calling Jews.
Okay.
That's not the Jews. They're leftist elites, right?
Okay.
They're the cabal, the Illuminati, the deep state, right?
So why are they so weird about like the Jews? Why can't we? I mean, I was kidding, but I'm like,
We've never been offended by anything you've said, and we think that you should ask questions.
Yeah, because I wasn't even like what I mean, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I think it's weird the way they react. You know, when I ask that. So like, what's your take on that?
Well, there's a lot of sensitivity of it, obviously because of the Holocaust. You know,
You think the Holocaust is like over exaggerated? Like, what's your?
I think it happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I meant like Nick. I think thinks it's over exaggerated. Do you guys?
And it's because of the Holocaust happening that like most Jews are now atheists. That's why they are. They're like, God didn't protect us. He let us get killed. So that's why they're atheists now. Yeah. So
I got no agenda. Like I'm just curious.
Well, the crazy thing is that the people that have been calling themselves Jews for the last 2,000 years, like they're actually not Jews according to God's standard. Right. It's not a race, it's a religion, right? And so someone who's a Jew according to God and like it just believes like Genesis to Revelation, like they believe it all and they apply it all.
Okay.
And that's just one of the many terms for someone that's a biblical person. You know? So yeah, it's really confusing. Unfortunately, like Jews really failed us in the world, but the Christians have done the same thing as the Jews though too.
Oh, he's not filming.
So that's okay. I was just talking to Pearl.
Oh, it's rolling.
So.
Cool.
Oh, is it epic? Okay. So real quick, like what I was talking about before. So look at this. 10,500 Natufi and hunter-gatherers harvest wild cereals in Syria and Lebanon. No specific date, no specific person. So that's made up. Look at all these like generic dates that are made up. But then you get to here. This is a real date.
Okay.
The Roman Republic was founded in 509 BC.
So is this? So is this a book?
This is a secular historian book. Like
so this is a sec. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So these are your notes on it,
right?
And this is a secular book.
Exactly.
Got it.
So just to show a point, it seems like it's impossible because we all just want to believe what we read at face value.
Well, no, it's so confusing because it's like all these different people.
And we really should be able to, but unfortunately that's never been true though. Like there's always been like false information up there. Like going way back to the garden, right? Like Eve thought she could believe everyone, she believed Satan. And then so
That's funny.
exactly. Okay, so check this out. So this isn't biblical at all. This is completely secular.
Okay.
And so they're saying that the earliest civilization history started in this orange area.
Okay.
And like
wow, that's so interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
And so let's see here. And Mount Ararat is like right here.
Okay.
So this was the only place they could go that was flat, that wasn't mountainous, that was close to a river, that was fertile with water, where they could like farm. So the only place to go from right there is right there, where Noah landed.
And
that's why it started there.
And then where is that on the timeline?
So.
Pre-flood.
No,
okay, so that's there, the flood.
Exactly. Yep.
And so, what was life like here in this period of time?
It was pretty desolate. Like the world had been destroyed, and that's the thing too. So all of the evidence of the pre-flood world is buried under like miles of mud, etc. So all the stuff that we actually observe on the earth today is evidence of the flood. So like, are you familiar with this is the city where like Abraham's from, or it was the largest city in the world at that time. And that is right here. Don't worry, this won't go long. This was the first empire post-flood. So this guy in the Bible is called Nimrod, but secular history calls him Sargon.
Okay.
And the Bible calls it the Bible calls it like the Empire of Babel, Tower of Babel. But the secular history calls it Akkad, the Akkadian Empire. So this is what the world looked like when Abraham was around, and so he went to the closest place outside of his empire that was fertile, which was
Canaanites.
Canaan, which is Israel,
Okay.
There's so many.
That's why he went there.
So many crazy history books.
And Israel is like literally the center of the world. Like it's in Asia. It's like touching Africa. Europe is right there.
Right.
It's a perfect witnessing tool for everybody, just where it's located.
Okay.
So
I think Nick was on your interview. He was like, "Why would people want Israel? It has no oil there." I'm like, "Bro, aren't you Catholic? Like, have you heard of the Crusades? Like, this has always been a very influential part of the world, and it carries with it like a sense of authority, of spiritual, religious, authority, and it's been important to a lot of people. But yeah, Israel is a secular state as we know it. It's just like the United States. There's no difference about
How
it.
long did it take you to go through all this? This has to have taken forever.
yeah, it took a while.
Like, when did you start researching this stuff?
I got really into history in 2002, and I
Okay.
studied every day since then. But when I started trying to figure out the timeline was 2013. So
Wow.
it took like about 10 years to put together. So
Are there other people? Like, is there like a community of people that have figured this out, or?
very rare. Nothing mainstream. Yeah.
No, I was just.
Very
Oh,
sparse. And so the reason why it's difficult is because like, so if we were keeping time, like creation would be the year 0,
Okay.
and then today would be the year 5,914. We'd be in the year 5914.
Okay.
If we were keeping history where we're supposed to, with creation's year 0.
We would be in 5914.
Yeah.
And do you believe? I feel like I've seen something like the Earth is going to live to 6,000 years.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what you think?
Yeah.
Like that's the end of time.
Yeah. No, but yeah. So then after that, there's the 1,000-year reign of the Messiah. Well,
Okay.
actually, like, the truth won't be a mystery anymore. Like, he's gonna like enforce the truth. He'll enforce like the law, morality, etc. And then at the end of that, then there'll be the new earth, forever.
And what's
For
that?
those that qualify.
Is that
That's heaven.
like heaven on earth?
Yeah, exactly. So, that's another thing, Pearl, too. Like, is like the Bible doesn't teach that we go to heaven when we die.
No way.
Yeah, yeah,
What
that's what has
does
to be
it
done.
say?
Yeah. So it's under debate, but like what I believe it teaches, I got 57 verses on it. What happens when you die? It teaches you go to Sheol, which is under the earth, and like the wicked people go to Hades, and then the believers go to paradise.
Okay.
Sheol under the earth. And then after that, the very few that qualify, so like the best believers, prophets, disciples, the martyrs, will get to be governors during the 1,000-year reign. So Revelation chapter 20. And then after that, so Armageddon, 1,000-year reign of the Messiah, and then after that, it's crazy. There'll be apparently a ton of people that don't want to live under the Messiah and the truth. So they'll do like one last rebellion. They'll be consumed with a fireball into Revelation chapter 20. And then at that point, like all of the evil people will burn up in the lake of fire, which is a separate place, same description but a different place. And then it will be the new earth from then on out. So like heaven like comes down to earth. It'll be like a combination. But we'll always be living on the earth though.
Huh.
That's something that like is not known hardly at all.
Do you think
But
that
it's right there.
if you went down far enough, you'd find people?
Oh well, we can't. So so like I think the farthest that they've ever like dug into the crust is like 8 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And they speculate that there's no way they can know this, but they speculate the Earth's crust, on the continental crust, is like 100 miles deep.
Oh wow.
So yeah, there's no way.
Oh, there's
yeah,
no-
it's too hard.
But you think that they're under the 100 miles is like souls, or?
I'm not sure how deep,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay. And do you
So-
think they look like this, like physical people, or do you think it's like spirits? Like, what do you?
Yeah,
You think
exactly.
it's spirits?
Yeah, or
Okay.
or like an angel body. So I think they still do have a body, but it's not perishable. It's like whatever Adam and Eve had in the garden, whatever the angels
Do you
have.
believe in like ghosts? Like they can make it up, spirits, like that sort of thing?
No, I don't believe those are people that died. No, I think those would be demons.
Like demons?
Evil spirits. Yeah.
And what do you think? Are demons fallen angels? Is that what you think?
They're actually the kids of fallen angels. It's crazy. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
so this is Rob Skiba's specialty. It says it right there in Genesis 6. But apparently, in the pre-flood world, like during the days of Jared, so 200 fallen angels came down and had sex with women, and they produced abnormal children to them, like giants and evil hybrids and stuff.
What?
And so when it's right there. So this is referenced in Genesis chapter 6.
Okay.
This is referenced in Peter references it, and this is referenced in Jude. And then more detail is given in the book of Enoch and also Jasher and Jubilees.
Okay.
That are Hebrew scriptures that weren't canonized. or at least not today. They weren't. Yeah.
Canonized. That means when the church approves it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So the interesting thing is like I was raised King James Bible only and only 66 books, blah blah blah. It's not that the Catholics added 7 books. It's that Martin Luther and the Protestants took out 7 books. The reason the Catholics had those books in there is because the Hebrews had those books in there, right?
Okay.
So it's so trippy because I was taught a lot of things wrong. You had to relook at it from scratch. But okay, so when those kids died, they were never supposed to exist in the first place, and they were like in a limbo state.
Okay.
And so those are the evil spirits, the demons that get referenced all throughout Scripture.
Do you believe there's like a special bloodline of like chosen people?
No.
Okay.
No. So it's never been about race. Exactly. Like we're literally all part of the same family. So like with Adam and Eve, and then earlier than that, like Noah and his wife. Like every human alive, we're all cousins of each other.
Okay.
So that's the irony about the whole thing. So we are literally all part of the same family.
They came for me. They can't. They're like coal burner. I think it's kind of funny. Coal burner.
What are you saying? What?
No, the coal burner. Like, I think they believe. I don't know who believes. Like, I can't. I'm not gonna say Nick believes this, but I think some of his followers believe there's like a chosen like bloodline.
Basically, every bloodline thinks they're the chosen bloodline.
right. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, oh my gosh. But yeah, it's never been about the bloodline. It's never been about race. It's been about like it's about what you believe and what you do. That's all God cares about. He doesn't care what title you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't care about what family you were born into. He cares about, hey, do you believe in the truth and do you do what I told you to do? That's it. And we'll all be judged based on that.
Yeah.
And so yeah. And so that boils down to, what does it boil down to? Boils down to patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And it also boils down to, like, he told us how to live from Exodus to Deuteronomy.
Okay. I feel like, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I feel like women, it's not too important, like, okay, what religion you pick in a way, like, okay, let's say there's 10 women. One woman marries a Catholic, one woman marries a Protestant, one woman marries a Muslim guy, right? I think the most important thing for women is if they obey what the husband says.
Correct.
Because that makes more sense to me, because I'm like, it would confuse me when women wouldn't take their husband's religion. Even if maybe he's, like, they can't all be right? So some of them have to be wrong, but I would guess that God would be more favorable to a Muslim who took woman who took her husband's religion, even if they were wrong. Don't know. That's makes sense to me. But what do you think about that?
Yeah. I think absolutely. I think women will be judged based on like do they have a husband like God told them to from the get-go, the first thing, and like how they interact with them. Like are they a rebel, or do they actually submit to him like he told them to? Yeah, so that'll be a huge factor. So now, I do think the other stuff is a factor too. So I think that they probably wouldn't qualify to like live forever if they were like a good submissive Muslim wife or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think that their punishment would be noticeably less. Because God didn't design them to figure this stuff out by themselves.
Right.
They just didn't. Like they just can't. I've literally never met a woman that actually did any independent study and actually knew anything. It's just true. This is coming from like my mom was the matriarch of the home. Like my dad, it's so crazy to think of him this way, but my dad is he's a sweetheart, but he's like a small town country bumpkin kind of guy, and he's just not very brainy. Yeah. And so he likes sports. That's his thing. And my mom actually is brainier than he is, but she's completely emotionally compromised. And what she what girls do is they pick everything that they've ever heard, and then they pick what they like, and that's what they go with. That's not how you figure out the truth.
Right.
That's what every girl does. And they don't have like a logical, historical like discernment filter. So everything they heard to them is equal. And so they're like, well, since I don't know which one's true, I'll just pitch which one I like the most. And that's not how you determine truth at all,
even like the Lauren Chen where she's like telling another guy how to talk to his wife. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That you believe in patriarchy.
Yeah.
I'll submit to you if you're a Christian patriarch.
Exactly.
That is the biggest cop out. Like that's a cop out. That's like, I'll submit to you when I feel like submitting to you. That's not submission at all. Can you submit to your boss when you feel like it? Or are there consequences and you'll get fired? Like, women don't think that there should be any consequences to their to their behavior. And, you know, that's another thing, like the women are actually reinventing the Bible and what they're teaching in churches. You know, they say just love, just love, just love. And the Bible actually teaches just like navigate from a place of fear, you know, of consequences. And that's really all people understand, is like the consequences for your actions. Like women only respond to consequences. And like you've noticed, when there aren't, they're not going to do the right thing because they don't have that moral compass. It's all about self-preservation. And yeah, like, man, go ahead. Yeah, my mind running like 100 miles a minute basically right now. But
So wait, so what do you guys think? You think in, what is it, 75 years from now, then Jesus is going to come?
Yeah, 86. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'll be dead.
yeah, no, exactly. Well, yeah, we're gonna be dead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But what do you think's going to happen?
Oh, so
You said he'll make, he'll make like a area that people don't want to go to, you said? Like he'll try to rule and then people won't want to come?
Yeah. Okay. So I've been fascinated and studied like the end times my entire life, and the truth is there's a million different theories out there. The truth is there's not enough information to tell specifics. So anyone that tells you differently is lying, not being genuine. Like that, I studied so deep and so wide just to find out there's not enough information to predict specifics.
Right.
So but the most popular theory going is that there will be like the last 7 years where Satan will like publicly take over, and he'll do like an inversion of what like God and the Messiah do. Like, you know, the Antichrist will be a human that like will be like Satan's son or indwelled by
Joe
him.
Biden or something?
No, absolutely not.
he's not smart enough to do that.
No, so no, definitely not. So like he'll make a solution to like a world problem like that no one else could think of, and it'll seem like things are going good.
Oh, so it's like
Everyone-
where the one true government's going, like
Yeah.
the one world government. So
Right.
that's gonna be like
Yeah.
Oh, that kind of makes sense. Okay.
A lot of people think that there will be so it, like that aliens will have like a part to do with it. So like a lot of people believe in aliens, and so we believe the phenomenon is going on, but we don't think that they're extraterrestrials. Like we think that, you know, when we talk about like the Nephilim, the demons, we think that it's actually those characters that developed the gray bodies, and they have like the technology, etc. And so anyway,
What do you mean the gray bodies?
you know the little green men, the grays.
Like when you
The
picture an
little alien
alien,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
big head, they're small.
Yeah.
little
I never really believed in them, but
So yeah, I never did either. Like,
Yeah.
so I never did either. And Rob Skiba brought it up, and so I spent 2 years looking into it. And so this is great. I didn't think we go on this route. We're gonna make a trailer for it. So I think it's a real phenomenon. But anyway, so this also might be a factor too. Like, you know, so the aliens come down and they say, hey, you know what? All your religions were all right and wrong at the same time. We're your creators, etc. And so you guys all were like partly right, partly wrong. So potentially everyone might drop their religion or just be part of this one new religion or whatever. And anyway, things will go really bad in the last 3.5 years. You know, so God's gonna do what He did in like the Exodus. He's gonna rain down all kinds of plagues, and like 3/4 of the world is gonna die. This is like detailed
Really?
Revelation. Yeah. And then
3/4. They think 3/4 of the world will die.
yeah.
Wow.
So
Because of diseases and like how do you think that would happen?
yeah, like a variety of factors. So like starvation, like withholding the wind, actually.
Drought.
Yeah, exactly. Drought, like plague.
Withholding the wind. What does that mean?
So yeah, it says that like God will cause the wind not to blow on the earth, which will create like all kinds of problems.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's something called wormwood, like an asteroid will like hit, and you know it gets crazy. But anyway, the point is a lot of people are going to die, and the whole point is like it's because they didn't listen to like God's like trying to like peacefully persuade them for so many thousands of years.
Right.
And this is like just like in Egypt, this is like a last ditch effort. So a lot of people think, oh, God's a Gemini, He was doing all the plagues in Egypt, but actually it was like a witnessing tool to try to get their attention because the nice way didn't work, so now He's trying the hard way. And then of course He protected the Hebrews that were in Egypt, right? So He'll do that again with believers in the future. The actual believers, not just anyone who identifies,
Right.
like and then at the end of the 7 years, Joshua. So like Joshua will come from heaven and fight the Battle of Armageddon. and kills all the bad people. And that's a plain in Israel actually, in Megiddo. So he'll have to forcibly conquer his enemies, just like every conquest and empire has throughout all of history. They first have to win a battle, and then they establish like their empire. And so then he'll reign over this exact current earth for 1,000 years.
Okay.
And so he'll be the king from Jerusalem, and then it says we'll rule and reign with Christ, Messiah, for 1,000 years. So my interpretation of that is like the best believers who he can trust, right? Who did what he told them to do when they didn't have to during their lifetime, and of course the martyrs and etc. They'll be governors throughout the whole earth, and they'll be like enforcing his law. They'll be enforcing morality, right? And then
That's why I called Joel the governor.
thanks, sweetie. Yeah. So and then what the crazy thing is it says like throughout all the time we're like, well, how could only 8 people be saved in the flood? If history had only gone on for 1,656 years, and and that's the cool thing about that chart I showed you. Like Adam lived to be 950 years old.
This chart. Oh,
Yeah.
this one. Okay.
Yeah, let me show you something so fascinating there. So this is a chart put together by Kent Hovind,
Okay.
and I list where you can find it. So the reason why I list like people's ages in the Bible seems boring and irrelevant. That's so you could put a chart together like this one. So, did you zoom in on that, Jeremiah? Awesome. So okay, so so the life of Adam, the first person ever created, overlaps the life of Methuselah. So it wasn't hearsay. This was the oldest guy who ever lived 969 years old. So this guy way down here, his great grandkid, like he literally knew his great grandpa Adam.
He must have looked old as hell.
Yeah.
What would a 1,000-year-old guy look like?
Exactly. So Kent Hovind actually goes into detail about how this is possible. It's a long sciencey explanation. But basically there was more oxygen in the air, which made your red blood cells more oxygenated, which allowed you to heal faster, live longer, have more energy, etc. Like hyperbaric oxygen chamber that NFL players use today. So that's in DVD number 2, The Garden of Eden. So anyway, so Methuselah knew Adam personally for 200 years. Methuselah was Noah's grandpa.
Okay.
And then Methuselah died just a few days before the flood, but his life overlapped Shem, Noah's son. Okay. So literally Shem on the ark, his great grandpa knew the first person who ever lived. Okay. So that's why history and the Bible is credible and nothing else is, like atheism. So if you don't have a human seeing it, you don't have anything. You're just making stuff up. You're forcing your interpretation onto an inanimate object.
A human.
If you don't have a human observing it, you don't have anything. So
okay.
all we can go on is so someone who saw it, right? So God, the angels, and humans. So if you don't have that, you don't have anything. It's pure speculation. You're making it up. So so Shem was on the ark, and he lived to be 600 years old. Look how long Shem lived. He lived all the way to the life of Jacob. So Jacob, look at all these kids later. So Jacob, it wasn't a theory that Shem and Noah were on the ark and there was a flood. Jacob literally knew Shem for around 50 years. And there's a whole cool story in Jasher about Abraham actually learned. He went to the house of Shem and Noah and learned from him up in Haran, which is on the Euphrates River. So this wasn't theory.
And that's in the Bible?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the detailed story is in Jasher, and then Genesis is a summary. So this covers all of Genesis, which is 2,309 years.
And what Bible do you guys... Because there's all these different versions, aren't there, of the Bible?
There are.
Yeah, so what one do you guys read? Or
the one I've been using since 2013 is the New King James Version.
Okay, the New King. Is that common one or no?
Yeah, it's common one.
Okay, it is.
Yep. So that's a whole nother topic, but most of them are good enough, Okay. Yeah, good enough. So most people aren't even reading them anyway. Okay, so so Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. So Joseph's dad, who was the vice pharaoh of the largest empire in the entire world, so his dad literally knew someone on the ark. So none of this was theory. It was all eyewitness accounts. So knew him personally. So Adam, Methuselah, Shem, Jacob, Joseph, and Egypt. Okay. And then history became was very well kept by everyone, around this time and on. So everyone thinks, it's not knowable. What happened before Joseph's not knowable. But it is. It is because of this, Okay, and so your view,
is that this is like the real history and everything else is fake.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
evolution, that's made up. And do you think, but some history kind of like this one kind of goes with what you're saying?
It
Can
does.
I see?
It does.
See
Absolutely,
again?
it does. Yep. So this picture, you want to get the blue laminate there?
Yeah, sure.
Or so I talk about this on human migration. Secular history proves the Bible.
Okay. Okay, so this is okay. And so you put in what you think is okay, so can you show me like why you thought something was untrue in this? Can you like I just want to go through your thought process. So something that was in this book that you said bullshit.
Sure.
And why you thought it was bullshit. So I like to understand like the thought process, people like the system you go through.
The earliest like Sumerians that were in Mesopotamia, that was like Noah and his kids and grandkids. That's who the Sumerians were. So civilization stayed in Mesopotamia for such a long time. They're referencing people like the Bilderberger group, you know, like the Rothschilds and like the bankers, etc. And apparently maybe Bill Gates and George Soros for sure. These people aren't Jewish at all. They're atheists. They're all self-identified atheists. How can they be Jewish if they're atheists? So how can Judaism be a race if we have black Jews, white Jews, and tan Jews? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Esau was not a good person. He was not a believer, right? He didn't do what God told him to do. He like did what the world was. Esau, like even though he was born to Jacob, he would be considered a Gentile. A Gentile, which is saying something, is a non-believer. So regardless of time, continent, or religion, patriarchy has been the only system that's ever been employed. This is the only system that can work. You know, if men didn't go along with it, feminism couldn't exist. It's never existed on its own in all of history. There's never been a society where there was a matriarchy, where there was consistently female queens, where like it's never existed because it can't.
Only married women would be able to work. Only married women could work, and that paycheck would actually go into the household account, which would be under the husband's, and that would be taxed. And his vote would be on behalf of the entire family.
You know, 80% of the homeless people are men. Nobody gives a shit.
And so it's like, well, why don't you go get a job?
All these Republican churchmen are beta, right? Like Lauren Chen's husband's a beta, Ben Shapiro beta, Michael.
He's not like Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson. Michael Knowles beta, Andrew Kaplan beta. What's the guy's name that Clayton? What's the guy that runs the Daily Wire?
Oh God.
Like beta.
Jeremy Boring.
So beta male is feminism.
Yeah.
And feminism is the left. How are they conservative? They're not. So that's the crazy thing is Republicans today are entirely liberal. They're entirely feminist. And churchgoers today are feminist too. They're very liberal, right? So they haven't conserved shit. It's been a total failure. Republicans in church has been a total failure.